Hi again. I hope you enjoyed that wonderful story and it transported you to a different world. It gives me absolute pleasure to introduce you to today's cast. Rita Bhatia, who played Choni, Choni's mother and keeper. Anirudh Mohan, who played Girish. Ashish Chakraborty,
Yay!
who played the Bengali man, the Pahadi agent, a fruit vendor, and a Tibetan father.
Yay!
And finally, Malavika Jaisimha, who was our narrator, director, and sound editor for the podcast.
Woo! Thank you so much. And I have a few special people to invite on the show today. We are extremely honored to have with us the author of this beautiful short story, Neela Devi, who also has.
There's Malvika's back.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I was just introducing my aunt, who is the author of this beautiful story. Her name is Neela Devi, and she's here with her daughter, Anita Kishan, who translated this for us. And I'd also like to invite my cousin, Deepa Iyengar, who did the editing as well of the script.
Hello.
Yay.
So just a quick introduction about the author. Neela Devi is a prolific writer in the Kannada language of India. She's been writing and publishing her works for the past 80 years, since 1940, when she was merely 9 years old. And her genres include fiction, short stories, children's literature, and basically her travel and life experiences, meeting different native people and experiencing landscapes have really helped create the various backgrounds and genres in her stories. And her work has been frequently published in literary magazines like Sudha, Taranga, and many others. She's won several prestigious awards in Kannada literature, including the Masti Award, the Kannada Sahitya Parishad Award, the Anupama Award, and many, many more. It is our absolute honor to have you on the show today and for you to share your beautiful story with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Malvika.
Great. So everybody, I think we can start with the Q&A session right now. So if you have any questions, please do type it up on chat and we'll call upon you, at which point you can unmute yourself. You can also raise your hand as well. We've just enabled that option for you. So you can raise your hand to ask a question as well. Let's see here. Okay, so I actually had the first question for you, Devyate. So my question was, tell us a little bit about your experience, you know, in Mussoorie, in your times when you were living in Mussoorie. Just tell us something about that, since it's been so long. Yeah.
I'll speak in Kannada.
Yes.
My English is not so good.
Yes, no, absolutely. Whatever you're comfortable with. And then Anita will translate.
Yeah. In 1960, I was in Bombay. And my husband was, sorry, I will speak in Kannada only. ನನ್ನ ಗಂಡ ಜಿಯಾಲಜಿಸ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ರು. ಅದರಿಂದ ಅವ್ರು ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೋ ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ನಾ ಹೋಗ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ಬಾಂಬೆಯಿಂದ ಅವರು ಮುಸ್ಸೋರಿಗೆ ಹೋದ್ರು. ಆವಾಗ ಅನಿತಾ, ಅವಳ ಫ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಶೋಭಾ, ನಾನು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಹೋದ್ವಿ ಜೊತೆನಲ್ಲಿ. ಮುಸ್ಸೋರಿ ಬಾಂಬೆಗಿಂತ ಬಹಳ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಿಮಾಲಯ ಪರ್ವತ ನಾನು ಯಾವತ್ತೂ ನೋಡಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ತುಂಬಾ ನನಗೆ ಬಹಳ ಖುಷಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಅದನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೂ ನಾನು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ, ನನ್ನ ಪಾಡಿಗೆ ಒಬ್ಳು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ಸುತ್ತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ನುಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ ಒಬ್ಳೆ, ಏನೂ ಭಯ ಇರ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಸ್ಸೋರಿ ಅಷ್ಟು ಸೇಫ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು. ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಜನ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬಾಗಿಲು ಕೂಡ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ದೆ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೋ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಡೋರು ಸಂಜೆ ಹೊತ್ತು ಹೀಗೆಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗೆ ಅದ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾನೇನ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ, ಆ ನಂಬಿಕೆನಲ್ಲಿ ಇಷ್ಟ ಬಂದ ಕಡೆನೆಲ್ಲ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ. ಆವಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತಿದ್ದಾಗ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಟಿಬೆಟಿನರೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ದ ಹಾಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದು ಅವರು ಅವರ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಹೊಟ್ಟೆ ಪಾಡಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಅವ್ರದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡಿಕ್ರಾಫ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ತಿತ್ತು. ಅಂತ ಗುಂಪನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡ್ದೆ. ಆಮೇಲಿಂದ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಅಲೆಮಾರಿ ಜೀವಿಗಳು, ಹಿಮಾಲಯ ಪರ್ವತ ಎಲ್ಲ ನಂಗೆ ಬೇರೆ ತರ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು. ಸೊ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ನಂಗೆ ಒಂಥರ ಕುತೂಹಲ ಹುಟ್ಟು, ತುಂಬಾ ಖುಷಿನೂ ಆಯ್ತು. ಅವಾಗ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಬರಿಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ದೆ ನಾನು.
Beautiful.
I hope I can do justice to this.
Well, you translated the whole story, so I'm sure you can do justice to it. Anita, go ahead.
What she said was that her husband, my dad, was a geologist and he traveled a lot. And those days we lived in Bombay, and he was given an assignment in Missouri. And so we went with, it was actually 1960 and I was 62 and I was 12 years old. And my parents and I and another friend of mine went to Missouri. So when dad was at work, we two girls used to just hang out, and my mother would roam the streets of Missouri because it was so very safe. People didn't lock doors. It was clean. It was beautiful. She was just so excited with the beauty. And then she saw these Tibetan refugees that had come along with the Dalai Lama during the when China occupied Tibet. And they eked out a living by selling their handicrafts, and they were nomadic people who went wherever they could conduct their business. And at this point, they happened to be in Missouri. Mom saw them and was just absolutely stunned with them, their innocence and their beauty. And she went and met with a lot of them, talked to them, found out their names, and that inspired her to write the story, which is probably your second question.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's great. Thank you. And I think we have a few people who've actually raised their hands. Thank you for this beautiful background. So first up, we have Anju. Anju, you had a question? Let me just unmute you. Yeah, go ahead, Anju.
Hi, Malvika. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
First of all, congrats, Cloud Playhouse. Malvika, you too. Your entire family is involved in this. Amazing job. What a lovely production this was. And I really enjoyed the podcast. It was it was very, very sweet, very, sort of took me back to growing up days and visiting hill stations and things like that. It was very, very nice and sort of touching. It was very nice. So congratulations, and thank you, Neela Auntie, for writing such a lovely story. Very pretty. That said, I do have a question about whether this was based on any real life incident in Missouri, and what is the inspiration?
ಇಲ್ಲ, ಏನು ಬೇಸಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಮನಸ್ಸಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಹುಡುಗಿರ್ನ ನೋಡಿದ್ರಾಗ ನಂಗೆ ಆ ಭಾವನೆ ಬಂತು. ಹಿಮಾಲಯದ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಗ್ರೌಂಡು, ಆ ಹುಡುಗಿರದು ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದ ರೀತಿ, ಆ ಟಿಬೆಟಿನ್ ಕುಟುಂಬ, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ನನಗೆ ಅದು ಮೊದಲಿಂದ ನಾನು ಬೆಳೆದಿದ್ದ ರೀತಿನಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಆ ಥರ ಒಂದು ಬೆಲೆ ಇರ್ತಿತ್ತು, ಒಂದು ನೀತಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಆ ಥರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೆಳೆಸಿದ್ರು. ಆದ್ರಿಂದ ನಾನು ಆ ಥರ ಬರೆಯೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಂಗೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಯ್ತು.
ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತು ಆಂಟಿ, ತುಂಬಾ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿತ್ತು. ಎಂಜಾಯ್.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಮಂಜು. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಅಂಜು.
So Anita, do you want to give a quick translation to that before I move on to my next question?
Yeah, this is not, it's a totally fictional story, but she was inspired by looking at them, those mountains, those beautiful things, and the innocence of the Tibetan people. And she had been brought up with a very moral background, and so virginity was so important to her, and so she decided to write this story.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, great. So next we have Ashok Krishnamurthy. Okay, I am dreading his questions. Ashok is Deepa's husband. Go ahead, Ashok. Let me allow you to talk. Yeah. Okay, I think you may be on mute, Ashok. You just have to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, MJ, you don't have to dread my question, first of all. You, Sandeep, and everyone actually on this call, I hope everyone's safe during these rather trying times. My questions, actually I have two questions which are rather related, and they're rather innocent, MJ, so you don't have to sweat it. Well done, first of all, not just to you, but the entire team. So two questions, one to Neela Devi, how accurate was the translation? And then the follow-on question was, to you, MJ, which was, did you take any directorial liberty when you read the story, or was it verbatim based on what was written and then eventually translated?
Okay, yeah. So I'll let Devyate go first, and then I'll answer your question.
They were rather innocent questions, by the way.
Yes, thank you. We'll reserve the other ones for later.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಬಾಕಿ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಷನ್ ತರ ಬರ್ದಿದ್ದವರೇ ಇಲ್ದೆ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಅವರ ಭಾವನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಇವ್ರು ತರೋಕ್ಕಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ರೊಂದು ಅರ್ಥದಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಇವರು ಬೇರೆ ಅರ್ಥನೇ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಬರೆಯುವಾಗ ಒಂದು ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಇಂದ ಒಂದು ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್ ಹೋಗುವಾಗ ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ ಎಮೋಷನ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ಕಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲೇನಾಯ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಕೊರೋನಾ ಇಂದ ಅನಿತಾ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಲ್ಲೇ ಇದ್ಲು, ಮನೇಲಿ ಯಾರು ಇರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ನಾವಿಬ್ರೆ ಸಂಜೆ ಹೊತ್ತು ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾನು ಓದ್ತಾ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೆ, ಅವಳು ಬರಿತಾ ಇದ್ಲು, ಅವಳು ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ಲು. ಆಮೇಲಿಂದ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಈ ತರ ಎಮೋಷನಲ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ದೀಪಾಗೆ ಅವಳು ಮಾಡೋಳು, ಈ ತರ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅಮ್ಮ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ಏನು ಅಂತ ಬರೆಯೋದು, ನೀನು ಥಿಂಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೇಳು ಅಂತ. ಮಾಲ್ವಿಕಾ, ದೀಪಾ, ಈ ಅನಿತಾ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸೇರ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದ ಎಮೋಷನ್ಸ್ ನ ಆದಷ್ಟು ಗ್ರಹಿಸಿ ಆದಷ್ಟು ಬಹಳ ಹತ್ರಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ತುಂಬಾ ಸಂತೋಷ ಆಯ್ತು. ಪೂರ್ತಿ ಎಲ್ಲಾನು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಹೋಲ್ ಟ್ರೂಪ್ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
Anita, you have to translate for me
yes.
because I didn't understand a word of what Doramma said.
Of course. By now you should know Kannada, but anyways, I will translate. Ashok is my brother-in-law, so I can take liberties with him. So my mom said that usually when translations happen, the author is not sitting right next to the translator, whereas I got the opportunity, Anita got the opportunity to sit with Neela Devi and translate this. And if I had any questions and I couldn't translate properly, I would run it by Deepa, and then we would translate it. It took us several days to just get the story where Deepa could take care of it and edit it. As an addition, I can tell you that most of the translation was fairly easy, but her language level is much higher, and I don't understand that kind of Kannada, unfortunately. And I had a lot of trouble with similes and metaphors, like when they compared Girish's heart to a rose. I was thinking in terms of English, and usually you don't compare a man's heart to a rose, but we let it be because I think it made it more authentic. Probably the hardest part of translating the story was that last paragraph where she had said something in Kannada that was so beautiful, but we couldn't find the proper words in English. And eventually Malvika, Deepa and I walked through it, and we came up with something that is as close to Kannada as it can be. For me, it was an enthralling situation because I got mom to be with me all by myself, and we got to reminisce about our life when I was a young girl. I had some very vague memories that she brought out, and it was just so enjoyable. At this point, I have to thank Deepa, Malvika, and the rest of the crew. You guys did a marvelous job. Mom is so happy with this whole thing because her work has not been published in the last couple of years, and this is something that she really, really appreciated.
Thank you.
And MJ, can you answer that question?
Yeah.
And actually, at the same time, who painted that real picture of Choni on the invite? Was it your cousin Rekha?
No. So that was not, so that was actually Sajid Dalvi. He did the sketches for our previous play as well, No You Listen to Me. And he's an amazing sketch artist. And so it was easy for us to just use him for this one. And hopefully he'll be doing sketches for many more of our plays as well. So yeah, he was not part of our family, at least not our, not related to us.
Malvika, we have him here as the audience. He's here as an attendee too.
So
awesome.
MJ, did you take any directorial liberties when you read the story, or was it verbatim?
So yeah, there were some liberties that I took, mainly with respect to the way Choni speaks, and I think Rita is kind of familiar with the milieu, so she suggested changing it around a bit. So we did that to make it sound a little bit more authentic. So we changed the translations to make it a little bit more broken English, something that they would normally, just the way that they would normally speak. So there were some liberties that we took, and if there were things that were sounding redundant, I would of course run that by Anita and Devyate and Deepa as well, and we would just take a decision to sort of chop it off. But yeah, there was some that we took, but I think we kept the essence of the whole thing intact.
Yeah, excellent.
Yes.
Well done. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so Sajid, are you on?
Sajid is very
Yes,
quiet.
Sajid is on. Yes, Sajid is on.
There he
Just a shout out to Sajid. I think everybody has just loved the sketch that you made for us.
Yes.
Thank you again.
Sure, not a problem.
Okay, so I think Sunanda has another question. Let me unmute her. Did she go off? Oh no. Okay, there she is. Yeah. Okay. Sunanda, go ahead.
There she is. Yeah.
Hi everyone. First of all, I want to tell your aunt that it's a very beautiful story, and what she wrote so many years ago, still so resoundful and still so beautiful. I haven't had the privilege of visiting those places, but this narration really transported me to imagine those places. So thank you so much for the story and all. It looks like a lot of hard work went in behind it. Thank you guys for putting in that work. So I had a question about how, so after this incident with Girish, did Choni's perspective, her innocence, kind of get affected by this whole, this incident? Does the author think that this might have changed her perception of the world in some way? Because I just want to understand what Choni thought of it, the whole incident which happened.
So she is asking, how did Choni change because of this incident? Was she affected? Did her innocence go away? What happened to her?
No, it was the training of their parents. They brought her up like that. They taught her how to be as a girl, teenage girl, how to see the world. They taught them naturally. They taught them. They are not artificial lesson or any such thing. She understood everything, so she behaved like that.
Okay, so this wasn't a total shock to her. So it was something she, she kind of knew about the world, right? And
yeah, I think she's trying to.
unpleasantness.
Yeah, and basically, I think she's trying to say that she was brought up in such a way that she knew how to handle the situation, and so I think that she, at the end of the story, when she goes back, her mind, she's very clear in her mind that this is not what she wants to do. And this is just not the way she's been brought up, and this is not what she wants to do. So saying that, she just says bye-bye. It doesn't really change her perspective. It actually, if anything, it makes it stronger, I think.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
No, I was just saying the reason I asked that was there's always innocence as we grow up, even like in our daily lives. As you grow up, there is certain moments in your life which breaks this protected cloud that you have been growing in. So I was wondering if this was that incident which kind of shook Choni's reality in some way, in an unpleasant way. But yeah, I guess she might have met people like that before too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I think, so that's what we were discussing as well when we were reading the script, is that she's not completely naive. She's aware. I mean, she's aware of what he's trying to do. Right from when he's, coming into her store, she knows, she understands what's going on, his intentions and all of that. So she's experienced that before.
Nice. Another quick question, if there's time, is do Choni's family return to the hill station again? And what about Girish? Does he go back to Bombay after this whole episode?
Girish definitely ಅವನು ಬಾಂಬೆಗೆ ಹೋಗೇ ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ, ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಅವನು ಬಾಂಬೆ ವಾಲ. ಅವನು ಬಂದಿದ್ದು ಹಿಮಾಲಯ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದು ಪೇಂಟಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಎಂಜಾಯ್ ಮಾಡೋಕೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದ ಅಷ್ಟೇನೆ. ಅವನ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು ಬಾಂಬೆನೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಈ ಶೋನಿದು ಅವರು ಚಳಿಗಾಲ ಅಂತ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿನವರೆಲ್ಲ ಹಿಮಾಲಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಚಳಿಗಾಲ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ನೋ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕೆಳಗೆ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ತಿರುಗಿ ವಾಪಸ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇವಳು ಆದ್ರೆ ಇವಳಿಗೆ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಸ್ಸೋರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಅವಳಿಗೇನು ನೆಲೆ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಪಸ್ ಬರಕ್ ಮನೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಬಂದವಳು ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೂ ವಾಪಸ್ಸು ಬರಬಹುದು, ಅಥವಾ ಅವ್ರ ಮನೆಯವರೆಲ್ಲ ಬಾಕಿ ಟಿಬಿಟಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲೂ ಓಡಾಡಿ ಎಲ್ಲೋ, ಇವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಮಡಿಕೇರಿ ಹತ್ರನೂ ಟಿಬಿಟಿಯನ್ ಕಾಲೋನಿ ಇದೆ, ಅವ್ರು ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬಂದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಟ್ಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಈಗ ಎಷ್ಟು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಸೆಟ್ಲ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರದ್ದೇ ಒಂದು ಊರಾಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ. ಆ ಥರನೂ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಅವರು ವಾಪಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೇಕು, ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ರು ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದು, ಹೇಳಕ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ರ ಪರಿಸ್ಥಿತಿ ಆವಾಗ ಆ ರೀತಿ ಇತ್ತು.
To translate that, Girish was just a tourist. He had come there to do some paintings. So the chances of him going back is almost zero. So I don't think my mother does not think that he went back. As far as Choni is concerned,
he went back to Bombay.
Yeah, he went back to Bombay. He didn't go back to Missouri. As far as Choni is concerned, she was a nomad, and they went wherever they could make business and wherever life was better than what it was. So it's possible that, in the winter time, when it got cold in the Himalayas, they went down to the plains where it was warmer, and then during the tourist season they came back up again. So she could have possibly come, but there are a lot of Tibetans spread all over in India, and in Karnataka there's a place called Markera in Coorg, and they have established a homestead over there, and they're in the last 40 years they've become a very thriving community, and they're being very hardworking and sincere. They have done a very good job for themselves despite coming here as destitute refugees.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you all for your wonderful comments. Some amazing comments for Devi Atte and just everybody who's worked so hard on this entire production. It's just when you have a minute, do take a look at all of the comments on chat, some amazing ones. Let's see if there's any other question. Okay. So
MJ, I do have a question.
Yes.
So you've done such a good job. You got us hooked, at least got me hooked. I can't speak for the rest of the audience. So the obvious question is, what's next and when?
Yes, thank you for that question. So we are actually doing a Zoom play, not a podcast, but our next production is a Zoom play, which is next Sunday, September 6th, called Fishing for Fate. So that's similar to all of the other plays that our audiences have been used to watching. Our next podcast, however, we're still in the works determining what to do for our next podcast. But when we have that nailed out, we'll definitely announce it, and we'll send an invite out for the next podcast. But
Great.
Next week is the Zoom play.
Thank you, and a shout out to Deepa Iyengar.
Yes. So I had a question. I had a question for Deepa actually. So Deepa, can you tell us about what your experience was in this whole translation aspect of it?
So firstly, it was a wonderful experience just working with all the family members, and as I was editing and looking at the story, we would start talking about how we grew up and incidents in our past, and so that was definitely the bonus out of this whole thing. But the process we followed was so Devidodama first went through the story with Anita. Anita actually hand wrote down the entire story in English, so like a transliteration almost. And then Anita read out the story while I typed it into a Google Doc. And as we wrote out the story, we did some amount of editing, but once we were done with the story, I went back to it and did final edits, and at the same time tried to preserve all the cultural connotations. And then if I had questions, then we would just talk on the phone and sort all that out and speak with Devidodama and see what would best fit words and feeling wise. So overall, I think it was a wonderful experience. It was a great experience, and the story was short enough that we could put so much energy into it. At the same time, it had so much of description and so many different cultural aspects to it that it really made us think on, how exactly it would best be represented in English. So so definitely a wonderful experience.
And I also, thanks Deepa, and I also want to add that Deepa and Anita are also working on 2 other translation projects for Devi Atte's short stories that hopefully we'll get to do sometime in the near future. So definitely very excited.
Yeah, MJ, it's time you made a movie too.
I know it is. We've been wanting to once this whole social distancing thing is done, then hopefully, let's see.
Yeah, we have a lead actor. MJ, you've acted before, so that fits.
We have so many lead actors here. Thank you.
Malvika, I have a quick question.
Yes, Divya, go ahead.
So this is my first time listening to this podcast, and I must say it was such a brilliant experience. The story was written so wonderfully that it was extremely easy for me to close my eyes and just picture the scenery, the sounds and sights, and the characters as well. Before I ask my question, I do want to thank Rita, Ani, Ashish. Loved your character portrayals. Rita, that was a great 10-year-old keeper that you played there. And Mahalvika, thanks for narrating it. It really did feel like you expressed the nuances of the story through your narration. And I did type that message to you as soon as you started narrating. And thanks to, of course, Neela Devi ji, Anita Kishan, and Deepa Iyengar for bringing this to our audience. My question now is to the author. The idea of what is considered a girl's crowning jewel is very different in today's world. So as the author, what do you think the story would be like in today's times? Do you think the notion of chastity before marriage is still as important?
No, many people, ಬಹಳ ಜನ ಏನು ಅದು ಒಪ್ಕೋತಾರೆ ವರ್ಜಿನಿಟಿ ಇಸ್ ಗುಡ್ ಅಂತ. ನನ್ನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಮದುವೆ ಟೈಮ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ಯೆಯಾಗೆ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಅದು ಈ ಕಾಲಕ್ಕೆ ಅದು ಎಷ್ಟರ ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ಈಗಿನ ಕಾಲದ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಅದು ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ರು ಪಾಲಿಸ್ತಾರೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ ಅದು ನನಗೆ ಅನುಮಾನ. ಪಾಲಿಸೋಣ ಅದು ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟ.
What she said was that she believes in virginity before marriage. A kanya, which is a virgin, has to stay a virgin till she is married. She thinks that some of the people still value virginity, but a lot of them may not, and she doesn't know how many do and how many don't. So society is like this. Society has changed a lot, and so things are very different now than at that time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Divya, for that. There's another question on the Q&A by VJ. I have a question for the cast. How did they internalize the story? So I'd like to take a moment for this and just talk about my cast. I think, the kind of contribution that they've given to this narration is the short story is just really, really beautiful. The nuances that they brought, the phrases that they've used, which I'm not familiar with, they brought all of that to the table. So they brought a really great deal of authenticity to the table for this narration. Rita with her accent, and Ashish for his the tiny phrases that he would use, which are very typical of a Tibetan man or a Bengali man. It just lent to the whole authenticity of the play, of the short story. So thank you guys for that. That was really, really nice. And I think, how did we internalize the story? Just by doing that. I think we kind of made it sound believable. And from a narrator's perspective, it was easy for me to just visualize the beauty of the landscape that was described in the story and then just express that through my voice. So that part was easy. I think Ani did an amazing job with, being this brash urban, young gentleman. And of course, so did Rita and Ashish, who played so many characters. So I'll let you guys talk about it. Go ahead. Rita, go ahead. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, so I want Ashish to go ahead because he played so many different characters and so many different voices. He did such a great job. Ashish, why don't you start first, please?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So how did I internalize the characters? Well, it's, in a day-to-day life, we meet these unique characters in our lives as well, who don't really impact us, but they kind of, for me, I mean, these characters were more human, right? Like you can easily ignore them, but they are there. They're very right in your face sort of a character. So yeah, when MJ, if I'm allowed to.
I know that's a new one for us, right?
Yeah.
MJ.
Oh, hold on, guys, hold on. That's only for just for me.
I'm
Okay, let's
sorry.
be
Now
very
it's
sure.
in public.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Now we are calling her MJ. You have no rights over this now.
Damn it.
So when she approached to me, when she approached me with the script and she said that she needed these accents, and I've never done accents before. She attached these links to to go refer and then just think about how their lives would be. So someone like an agent who's, if you take it, that agent is looking for customers, right? Like, and he has to sell whatever he can at that point to grab customers. So you would see that nervousness in his voice, the urgency into to sell him the highlights of staying in that region. So you have to give yourself a purpose and then build an arc around it. Like what does the character want, and then what is its purpose? If I'm the Bengali man, then what's the Bengali man's character doing? Like he wants to know more about this person's life. He wants to engage. So like I said, like these small characters, you have to make them believable. These characters may not live with you throughout the story, but they live enough to make an impact. So
yes, completely agree.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ashish.
Ani?
Yes. Yeah. So, I got to carry over what Ashish said. Yes, there is purpose. Each time when you act, each time when you get roles and you try to get inside the character's head. But for me, I think it was the most easiest job because it was basically I am basically the audience where like I'm just going with the flow as to what the character is going. So whatever the audience is experiencing, I as a character, as Girish is also experiencing the same thing. So I felt like to be true, to just trust the play or trust the story 100% and just go with that, and you have that moment of those personality of each of Girish as a character, and then you carry that over throughout the play is like one of the best things I enjoyed. And it was just trust in the story and just go with the flow. That was my motto, and then it was perfect. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thank you, Ani. Rita.
Yeah, the same goes for us. As an actor, the first time when you read a story or a script, what I do is I read it a couple of times and I just get into the essence of the script and the story. And bringing any piece of art to life is very rewarding for me as an experience. So I just like to live the character. I like to build a story behind the character. So, and it helps if you know a little bit about, if you've interacted with this kind of a character before, it kind of gives you a framework to work on. And fortunately for me, I have met some people who are like this. So I could immediately imagine the accents, how she would react. And so it was a little bit easier for me that way. And I could also, I also knew, I have had firsthand experience with the innocence that Neela Devi you mentioned. And so I think that helped me a lot as well to understand the innocence with which she was approaching the whole, the encounter with Girish and everything. And I really enjoyed it. I just enjoy the experience of just bringing these characters to life. I think for me, that is the best part, whether it's acting in front of the camera, or acting on stage, or even if just a voiceover. I just love this whole experience. It's creatively very fulfilling for me. So I
Yeah.
think I really enjoyed that. And of course, Malvika did such a great job with directing all of us, and she was so amazing. I mean, just it was her
I didn't
story.
have to do much with people like all of
Just
you.
being very humble, but she was really, really amazing. So shout out to M.
Thank you. And shout out to all of you. Thank you. And I just also wanted to add that, this is the first time we're doing a podcast. So since you don't really have faces to look at, the soundscape becomes really kind of important. So that for me was a learning experience with this whole thing, because to fit the music to the mood of the dialogue, was actually a very, very interesting, experience. And that really kind of helps transport you to that space as well. So to me, that process was also extremely interesting with this.
Yeah, MJ, just to kind of add to that, not easy when you're face to face, let alone doing this during COVID times when you're far apart. Hopefully you did this far apart, at least 6 feet
Yes.
apart, if not more. But kudos to you and the team to having pulled this off. It's just amazing. It came out more than professionally done, honestly. And what a big critic I can be, right? So
yes.
So
Thank you, Ashok. And actually, I have to add. So, cast, if you want to share what I put you guys through in terms of where I made you record your voices, please feel free. We forgot about that, but that's an interesting.
Yes. So, it's the first time for us, at least for me and for Cloud Playhouse. So every time we would record it, we would get these different sounds and everything. So we had to figure out a way where we wouldn't have so many sounds. So finally, Malvika tells us, listen, guys, you have to go inside a closet where there's no one there, and if you're padded around or get under. Literally, I have one trailer where I'm inside a blanket. There were times when I was actually inside a blanket and recording and sweating buckets and trying to record because this is what we were doing. And there were echoes, or there would be voices, and we would say, oh, Ashish, we can hear something, and we would be doing testing, because even like a slight rustle of paper and it would pick it up, right? So this was all very new for us, very challenging, and but we really enjoyed it. And
yeah, that's true. And we actually just did all of this we did over the past 1 week. That's all, because we didn't have time to do any of it before that. So it was literally done like over a period of 3 days. Basically, yeah, we were all of us were sweating buckets. And this whole experience of giving so much importance to sound is very, very new to us, because when we do a play over Zoom, this is not that much of a concern. Like, the sound being perfect is not as much a concern as it is for a podcast. So.
And for those of you who don't know, I have to give a massive, more than a shout out to someone who bears with Malvika day in and day out, Sandeep Kasarkod, who probably had to go handle Leela and every other aspect of.
Excuse me.
We must say one thing. While we were recording, we were almost done with our final recording, and then midway we hear Malvika speaking into the thing, and we are about to do, and then we hear Leela yelling in the background.
She's crying. No,
she's crying. And none of us had the.
So if anyone deserved the utmost adulation for having gone through this, trust me, I've known MJ since she was, I don't know, tiny tot. Sandeep Kasarkod, if you're hearing this, shout out to you, buddy.
Thank you. I'll tell him. But just FYI, I used to have all my rehearsals after Leela went to sleep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. And we really, really appreciate your... Oh, sorry.
I would like to thank on my mom's behalf, all of you. Deepa and you, I carried around when you were babies. And here you guys are. I'm so proud of you. And the actors were stupendous. It was really good. And Rita, I've seen you in several other plays. And I'm really impressed by how you do things. So thank you from my mother with all her heart and my heart.
Thank you. It was my honor and privilege. Thank you,
yeah.
Neela ji. Thank you so much for letting us do this. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. And thank you, for giving us such amazing content. And we hope to do many more of yours. And thank you, Deepa. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Devyate.
Thank you.
We should do some more of these family projects.
Yes, we should.
And Malvika, thanks for putting all this together, because this was the reason we did this. So yeah.
Of course. I'm glad we have this platform. Anyway, so if there are no other questions, we'd like to again thank you so much for joining in. Our podcast is available, right now it's available on Spotify and Stitcher. It will be available on Apple Podcast and TuneIn by the end of this week. But you can also listen to it again if you want to on our website, which is cloudplayhouse.com/podcast, and also on SoundCloud as well. So you just go to soundcloud.com/cloudplayhouse. So different ways for you to listen to this again. And like I said earlier, next weekend, next Sunday, we have a Zoom play coming up, which is called Fishing for Fate. It's a light, easy, breezy kind of play with a small cast. So looking forward to seeing all of you there as well.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Mana ante.